highly as chair of the support committee at Cape Canaveral National Cemetery. I would like to recognize months of diligent preparation by the chair for this Memorial Day ceremony, Margie Collins. There's something in common in that we were both military spouses, but Margie is also a veteran, having served as an Air Force nurse, achieving the rank of captain. Margie helped create our support committee and served as its first vice chair. Additionally, she volunteers at Parish Medical Center in the emergency room. Thank you, Margie. It is my honor to introduce another captain to you, Navy Captain Robert Watts, our Master of Ceremonies. A Naval Academy graduate who became a Navy pilot, Captain Watts served for 32 years in the Navy, accumulating over 3,300 flight hours. He has received many honors, including the Legion of Merit, the Meritorious Service Medal, the Navy Commendation Medal, and the Navy Achievement Medal. Captain Watts continues his service by volunteering in many veterans organizations, including the Military Officers Association of America, Cape Canaveral Chapter, and the Tuskegee Airmen. He is married to Karen Watts, who is also with us here today. Please welcome our Master of Ceremonies, Captain Robert Watts.
As we commemorate Memorial Day, America responds when it is called upon to serve. And today we honor those, our military, who have made the ultimate sacrifice on America's behalf, and to provide comfort to those left behind to mourn their loss, and to remember their courage and devotion. It is my pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Colonel J.B. Kump, United States Air Force retired, who will deliver the invocation for today's program. Lieutenant Colonel Kump began his 20 years active duty in the United States Air Force in 1968. Throughout his military career, he served in public affairs assignments, including in the Philippines and the city of Berlin in Germany. He also served 2 tours in Los Angeles in the Air Force counterpart of NASA. After retirement, he worked at the Kennedy Space Center. He is currently affiliated with many service organizations and is the pastor of the Great Outdoors Community Church. He and his wife Shirley, who is with us today, have been married for 52 years. JB.
Heavenly Father, today as we gather here at Cape Canaveral National Cemetery, we're grateful for your presence. As we reflect on the sacrifice made by those who paid the ultimate price on behalf of our nation. On this Memorial Day, we pray for peace as we remember those who gave all. Today may we receive your guidance, Heavenly Father, and may we never forget the fallen, even as we use their memory to lead us to such a time of peace that such a sacrifice is no longer required. We praise you, Lord, and pray in your name. Amen.
Today, the presentation of colors will be made by the Naval Ordnance Test Unit. The mission of the Naval Ordnance Test Unit, or NOTU as we commonly call it, is to serve the country by supporting and testing sea-based weapons systems in a safe environment. The command directly supports the mission capability and readiness of United States Navy Trident submarines, as well as the Fleet Ballistic Missile Program of the United Kingdom. NOTU also operates the Navy port at Port Canaveral. The NOTU Color Guard is here today under the command of Captain Jason Wartell, United States Navy. We are grateful to have Chief Petty Officer Bill Hilberg, United States Navy retired, who will sing our national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light, and the home of the brave. War is a symbol of sacrifice, honoring those who have died in service to our nation. The strength of our nation is its military. The strength of our military is our military members. The strength of our military members is our families. America recognizes that no one has given more for the nation than families of the fallen. In recognition of that, will Lena and David Perry please come forward to present the Gold Star wreath in honor of Lena's son, Corporal Theodore Andrew Bowling, United States Marine Corps, who was killed in action in Fallujah, Iraq, on November 11, 2004. We honor him with the following memories. Words from his mother. Corporal Theodore Andrew Bowling was known as Andrew to family and friends, and was the only child of a single mom, Lena Perry. Andrew grew up to be a loving and caring man who never missed a holiday to send his mother a card, even on Halloween. Andrew was a person who had a natural instinct to comfort others and help them feel better. Andrew built long-lasting friendships with schoolmates as early as first grade, who 10 years later still keep in touch and attend Andrew's memorial each year. Andrew loved his country and left college to join the Marines in 2001. Andrew was never prouder than when he became a Marine. Now I'll read a page from Andrew's diary in boot camp. November 5th, 2001, another Sunday down. 2 more Sundays, then we go to the Crucible, that following Tuesday. We got phone calls home last night. I called my mom. It was great to hear from someone on the outside. I really miss everyone and believe boot camp has changed me to hopefully become a more caring and loving person. You really don't know what you're missing until you don't have it. That's why I'm going to spend time with Mom and Steve every minute. And every minute of will be precious. We already have plans to go to Vegas for a weekend when I get out of boot camp. It's going to be great. I devoted myself to Jesus and now receive and confess him as my personal Savior. I did it on this very day, and my heart is open and I will let him in my life and pray to him. Now we words from a fellow soldier. Corporal Bowling, called call sign Marauder, was an infantry team leader with the 1st Squad, 3rd Platoon, L Company, 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines out of Camp Pendleton, California. He was a natural-born leader who displayed amazing courage and always, no matter what, led his team of Marines from the front. His first tour of duty started with the 2003 invasion of Iraq, known as Operation Iraqi Freedom. With only 2 weeks remaining in his second tour of duty in Iraq, with plans to be home on Christmas and marry his girlfriend, Corporal Bowling was called to fight in the Second Battle of Fallujah, commonly referred to as Operation Phantom Fury, or the retaking of the Iraqi town of Fallujah from about 4,000 radical insurgents, which turned out to be the bloodiest battle of the Iraq War and the worst urban combat experienced by the Marines since the 1968 Battle of Hue City in Vietnam. While heavy fighting began as the Marines entered Fallujah on November 7th, Corporal Bowling and his band of brothers fought house to house, neutralizing enemy positions, and took back one house at a time, neutralizing enemy positions in the most dangerous city in Iraq. You have to excuse me. On November 11th, Corporal Bowling and his squad maneuvered to the edge of the insurgent-held area in Fallujah called Queens. Immediately, 1st Squad started receiving intense automatic gunfire and rocket-propelled grenade attacks while clearing a multi-level building. Without regard to his own safety, Corporal Bowling instinctively fired back and exposed himself multiple times to ensure each of his team members was set up in the best position possible for attack. Corporal Bowling, without hesitation, positioned himself in more vulnerable positions and focused all his efforts on accurately directing his team's fire and repelling the enemy attack. It is during the firefight that Corporal Bowling would become fatally wounded while defending the team's position. For his actions, Corporal Bowling was awarded the Purple Heart and the Marine Corps Commendation Medal with V for valor due to his historic action in the course of combat. It is also my pleasure to now introduce Don Murphy, who is the director of the Cape Canaveral National Cemetery. He is responsible for all administrative operations here at the cemetery. Mr. Murphy has held various positions under the Veterans Administration, including Chief of Operations and Deputy Director of Memorial Programs in Washington, D.C. Mr. Murphy is a United States Army veteran, having served with the 101st Airborne Division during Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm.
Welcome on this beautiful but very hot day. We're glad that you could come out and join us and pay honor to our nation's fallen.
Colonel Chess joined the Air Force in 1992 and had many distinguished assignments, including command of 4th Space Operations Squadron at Schriever Air Force Base, Colorado, and commander 21st Space Wing, Peterson Air Force Base, Colorado. He has been deployed to Qatar in support of Operations Enduring Freedom, Resolute Support, and Inherent Resolve. And his staff assignments include Headquarters Space Command, Air Staff, and most recently as the Senior Military Assistant to the Undersecretary of the Air Force. He has been awarded the Legion of Merit, the Meritorious Service Medal, the Air Force Commendation Medal, the Air Force Achievement Medal, among many others. Today, he oversees the secure processing and launching of U.S. government and commercial satellites from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, and all launches on the Eastern Range, supporting the missions of both NASA and commercial entities. Ladies and gentlemen, Brigadier Douglas Chess.
Good morning. On behalf of the men and women of the 45th Space Wing, thank you for the opportunity to spend a few moments with you all today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm humbled to be here on this special yet solemn occasion and to be in the presence of so many veterans and their families. Today we are here to remember, recognize, and honor our fallen, to pay tribute to the men and women that responded when our nation called and paid the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our country. They are our sons, our daughters, our parents, our spouses. They are the best of us. When President John F. Kennedy famously stated, "My fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country," these members courageously responded with, "Send me. I can give you all that I have for my country." They are the definition of service, sacrifice, and patriotism. History has taught us, as we witness here today, that freedom is not free. America stands on the shoulders of more than 1.5 million brave soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen who have served, fought, and ultimately died for our freedom. We owe them a debt that we can never repay. Each of us can only hope that we are worthy of the sacrifice and also worthy of the loved ones they left behind, for their families bear the very same burden of freedom. Gold Star family members such as David and Lena Perry, and Don Weaver, former Army captain and career Foreign Service officer, and his wife Janine. Sir, ma'am, on behalf of every airman and every serviceman, thank you for your service and thank you for your sacrifice. Your sons, Army First Lieutenant Todd Weaver and Marine Corporal Theodore Andrew Bowling, are two of the many heroes that we pay tribute to this Memorial Day. There are no words that can ever truly express our gratitude for their contributions to this country, but we will continue to demonstrate our appreciation by honoring them and continuing the legacy of responding to our nation's call. That is our theme today, America Responds. I ask each of you to take some time to consider how you should respond, not just to call of our nation, but to the men and women who gave so much. I ask you to respond not by just remembering these brave individuals as a number, but by never taking this freedom we enjoy granted. Respond by never losing sight of what that sacrifice means to all of us. The son whose dad will never make it to another game. The daughter whose mother won't be there to tuck her in at night. The mom and dad who will never make it to their child's graduation or wedding. What a sacrifice. I would like to leave you with a quote from former President George W. Bush. We ask a lot of those who wear our uniform. We ask them to leave their loved ones, to travel great distance, to risk injury, even be prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice of their lives. On this Memorial Day, on behalf of a grateful nation, we respond to those who paid the ultimate sacrifice by striving to emulate their bravery, their dedication, and their self-sacrifice. We respond by never forgetting the cost of freedom.
Our keynote speakers today are Don and Jeannie Weaver. Don joined the Army as an infantry officer in 1968 during the Vietnam era. He served for 13 months on the Korean DMZ and spent 2 years as a basic training company commander. In 1974, Don earned a master's degree in international relations, followed by an appointment in the United States Foreign Service, which he served in for the next 40 years. During that time, he and his wife Jeannie had 4 children and spent more than 18 years in Africa and Eastern Europe, representing our country and serving in many capacities in 8 embassies. Don learned 5 foreign languages, I didn't know you knew one, and visited 105 countries by the time he left the government. He earned a number of State Department awards, including their Superior Honor Award. In 2018, Don was awarded the Governor's Service Medal, and he continues his service to our veterans by his participation in many veteran service organizations, including serving as the president of the Brevard Veterans Memorial Center and chairman, Good Deeds Foundation, Military Officers Association of America, Cape Canaveral chapter. Now I speak about the stronger part of the team. Jeannie graduated from college in 1969, where she studied art and speech communications. As she accompanied Don throughout their years with the Foreign Service, she was able to use those skills to become a community liaison officer with the State Department, earning numerous awards, including 2 Meritorious Service Awards and a Superior Honor Award. She also served as an editor-in-chief of the weekly newsletter, became the director of an American International Preschool, and was an events coordinator for an ambassador, all the while studying oil painting and conducting art enrichment classes. Don and Jeannie grew up in the Space Coast and were married in Cocoa Beach in 1970. Almost every year of their career, Don and Jeannie brought their family home to Brevard County for vacations. 2 sons served in the Army as Army officers, and 2 daughters live and work in Virginia. Their youngest son, First Lieutenant Todd Weaver, United States Army, while on his 2nd deployment, was killed in combat on September 9, 2010, while leading a night patrol in Kandahar, the birthplace of the Taliban. Todd was one of hundreds of thousands of today's youth who led America's response after the 9/11 attacks. As Gold Star parents, Don and Jeannie strive to find ways to honor America's fallen, knowing they cannot change what happened to their family, but can remind other Americans about the cost of freedom, while honoring the memory of Todd and all who have made the ultimate sacrifice as a result of their military service to the United States. Jeannie honored their son through the creation of a series of 21 oil paintings and essays that were published in her book, Losing Todd, A Mother's Journey. The book was published by the Muscarel Museum of Art and the College of William and Mary, where she was presented the Distinguished Honorary Alumni Award for creating their lasting legacy to the memory of their son. Don and Jeannie, it is now your turn.
You could have worked around your house on the honey-do list, or even gone to your job or volunteer position. You did not. You came here. You decided Memorial Day in America is something special. You had to be here. On behalf of the nearly 1.3 million Americans who perished in America's wars and conflicts since the Revolution, and the hundreds of thousands of more who died as a result of military service or were grievously wounded, thank you. You remember them. You honor them. You will never forget. Perhaps the ancient Greeks had it right. A soldier never dies unless he is forgotten. Let's reflect on why and how there is a Memorial Day. First of all, please read in your program the moving story of Blue Star to Gold Star. Also remember that everyone who serves our country in uniform writes a blank check made payable to you, the American people, from an amount up to and including their lives. Before the Civil War, America was focused on creation, expansion, and survival. There would be no major monuments even to Washington and Jefferson for over 150 years. President Abraham Lincoln changed that as he scrawled out a speech on the back of an envelope on his way to a little-known Pennsylvania hamlet called Gettysburg. After that, the federal government, they're pretty good at this, confiscated property in Northern Virginia from the Robert E. Lee family and began to honorably lay to rest the Civil War fallen at Arlington National Cemetery. While today our focus is on the current generation of men and women who have served and made the ultimate sacrifice, Americans who responded before and after 9/11 to the attacks from radical terrorists, we honor and remember here today all the fallen throughout our history. Let's go back. There were 4,400 killed in the American Revolution. For every 100,000 Americans that they protected. In the Vietnam era, 3.4 million served, but were numbered at 1,900 per every 100,000 Americans. Today, that number, having served since the USS Cole attack, is down to 888 for every 100,000 Americans of our population of 330 plus million. They really are the few, the proud, the brave, even if they are not all U.S. Marines. I borrowed that one. Remember also, they all, since 1983, they all volunteered, and many did so again and again and again. America lost 2,987 souls on 9/11 and another 17 when the Cole was attacked, and 6 at the first World Trade Center bombing. Those were sites of attacks by radical Islamic terrorists, and that's when the war on terror, or whatever we call it today, the reality came to America. After September 11th, 2001, another response began as our country again called on its young men and women to serve, protect, to risk everything while bringing that fight to our terrorist enemies. So far, 2.5 million Americans have gone to the fight. Our country has now lost 6,874 killed in direct combat operations against terrorists around the world, primarily, though, in Iraq and Afghanistan. They, and thousands of others who have died since 9/11 as a result of military service, have left behind families who changed their blue stars to gold. Our family is one of them. The numbers also include 3 service members killed this month in the war areas. And 3 Patrick Air Force Base 920th Rescue Wing parajumpers killed on March 15th, 2018. Their Gold Star families this morning received personalized honor and remember flags at the Veterans Memorial Center. Thank you for the sacrifices of the United States Air Force. All of our fallen since 9/11 knew America required their selfless service, potentially the ultimate sacrifice. Remember the blank check. They knew that their work and their service was required to keep America free, to keep it the country they loved. For them, Memorial Day is a symbol of everything left behind. But I suspect, like Todd, they also had a lot of fun-filled Memorial Day weekends. They went to the beach, and by the way, please do lots of fun stuff the rest of the day. You've paid your price here today. You've remembered. And they had especially enjoyed, didn't they, the sort of American symbolism of the start of summer and no school. For all of us, Memorial Day should be a reminder that without them, today and throughout our history, there would be no America as we know and cherish it. If I may, let me challenge you today. You already get it. But as the months and years go by, you heard from the numbers, fewer and fewer Americans are being touched by military service, yet alone crushing sacrifice. Talk with them, your neighbors, your friends. Tell them the real story of Memorial Day. And get them to come with you next year. Let's make it 2,000. Like so many of you here today, our family has responded to America's call to action in the military in almost every generation. Our grandfathers served in World War I, our fathers in World War II. In fact, in yesterday's Florida Today, our father's obituary after he was laid to rest on the 9th of April at ANC, a World War II and Korean War veteran, about 100 yards away from his grandson, Todd. I joined the Army in 1968 to 72, as you heard, and I always wondered why wasn't I called to combat in Vietnam, like so many of my friends, many of whom are on that wall. My sister Becky served in the U.S. Navy. Our son Glenn also served during the Gulf War. But that history of American families with those lines is changing. We have a service that is so fantastic and provided with such great equipment. They can do so much more with what they are provided, but it will probably continue to be a smaller percentage of our population, less than 0.5% in full military uniform from this time on. As you know, Todd served in 2 wars, in Iraq and until he fell in 2010, as you've heard, in Afghanistan. He, like others of his generation, were young. Today, some were not even alive who are serving on 9/11. Next year, most seniors in our high schools will have been born after 9/11. Let me add, it is fantastic to note that here in Brevard County, we have the highest number of rate of JROTC participation among almost every county in Florida and most in the United States. An average of almost 200 high school students are members of the Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps in our high schools. The future may be in good hands, and I believe so. We're proud of Todd. We never gave a thought we would become a Gold Star family. In fact, one of the last things I said, Todd, if you lose one of your men, make sure you stay in contact with their families. They'll need to know how that son, daughter, husband, a wife sacrificed their lives for our country. We are a Gold Star family. We cannot change that. But we can honor our son and all the fallen and try to make them as proud of us as we are of them. Todd and his siblings got all the good qualities in their nature and their temperament from their mother. She will share something about him and all the fallen. Jeannie, take over.
I'm so very proud of my husband. He's such an amazing husband, father, and patriot, and volunteer for our armed forces. Thank you, Don. I have chosen to read from my book today, Losing Todd, A Mother's Journey, Finding Peace in My Heart. The excerpt is entitled, Among the Hills of Valor. It is October 14th, 2010. The sun shines brightly on the glistening grass and the wet pavement from the noontime rain. As the band plays in the distant background, she stands stoic yet demure, her beautiful brunette hair streaming down below her black-rimmed hat. She watches the Army Old Guard of Arlington National Cemetery flawlessly transfer her husband's casket to the Old Guard caisson. The band moves forward to begin the procession. The drummer taps his drum. Diddly-dum, dum, dum, diddly-dum, dum, dum. Next, the color guard. Then the caisson with a team of 6 white caisson horses and 3 soldiers riding erect join behind the color guard. A 7th caisson horse rides unharnessed. This horse symbolizes the fallen soldier. It is silent. All that can be heard are the hooves of the horses and the diddly-dum, dum, dum, diddly-dum, dum, dum, diddly-dum, dum, dum. She moves forward. The family follows: sisters, brother, nieces, nephews, his mother, and his 1-year-old baby daughter carried by his father. Other relatives follow behind. Close to 300 others who have traveled from near and far follow in the procession, a respectable distance behind. Diddly-dum, dum, dum, continues the drummer. Quiet steps by the old guard carries a casket for the caisson to his final resting place in section 60. While Amazing Grace plays in the distance, the flag is loosened, stretched out, held taut above, shading and protecting the shimmering silver-colored casket. The chaplain begins to speak at the end of his service. He says, "This soldier went into combat with his faith in the Lord. He went without fear. He did so because he wanted to pass on to future generations freedom. The freedom our forefathers had given us as part of the long line that continues to give us freedom." White gloved hands fold the flag with precision, while in the background, the Army band plays "America the Beautiful." And the chaplain says, "For our comrade in arms, the nation now bestows its military honors. In his life, he honored our nation's flag. Now, in his death, our nation's flag shall honor him." The flag is saluted one last time. A salute of 21 guns. A lone bugler in the distance among the shining diamond white marble headstones plays taps. The flag is handed to the general. She kneels quietly before his baby daughter, who is sitting on her mother's lap, and hands the flag to her. The baby lovingly smiles. Our son Todd was killed in Kandahar, Afghanistan, September 9th, 2010, while leading his men on a nighttime maneuver. Today, he rests among the rolling hills of valor of Arlington National Cemetery. In that honor, he takes his place in our history with many of our nation's heroes. And so today, this Memorial Day, we honor all who are laid to rest here at Cape Canaveral National Cemetery and the many other cemeteries throughout our nation. They have put service to country before self. Thank you.
Story. Your devotion to our community and our country and for your sacrifice to a grateful nation. Your words help to heal all of our hearts. And Don, if Jeannie said that you're good, you're good. Thank you again. I'm going to have a gun salute.